What's up everybody, Scratch coming up with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Now for whoever watched my previous video regarding the Doom Tower, the Scarab King, you guys probably noticed that I was talking about a couple of bosses getting replaced and rotating in the next Doom Tower reset with a couple of new bosses. So all that was kind of like data mine information, so was not 100% sure. We had some secret rooms informations there. If you wanna find out more about that, I'm gonna link the video, so feel free to check that out. How I said, it's not 100% accurate, but seeing like the two new bosses are coming actually in the next reset, that data becomes pretty accurate. So the reason of this video, guys, is because Plarium announced the two new bosses. We have the skill description, we have the look, we found out everything about the two new bosses. So I want to help you guys to get prepared for the new Doom Tower bosses coming out in the next 8 days with the new Doom Tower reset. But before we move over to that, if you do enjoy the video, smash that like button. If you do enjoy my content, subscribe. That helps a lot the channel, guys. Appreciate you all guys watching. So let's jump over into it. So how I said, a couple of bosses will get replaced. We have 1 week and 1 more day. Is just popping the timer right here behind me, so you cannot see that, guys, till the new bosses get into the rotation. So the main idea is the bosses will not get replaced. It's not like 2 of the bosses, they're gonna disappear completely from the Doom Tower. No, the whole idea is like how they had it at the beginning. Every month, the bosses from the last floors and all in between the floors, 120, 60, 70, all these bosses will eventually rotate, and every month have a new boss at the top of the tower to make it a bit more challenging. But because they had to adjust some bosses, buff them, buff some levels, it took them a while to sort everything online. But from here on, the bosses will rotate every month. At least that's what I understood from them, guys. But that being said, let's jump over and look at the new bosses. You gotta get prepared, guys. The new bosses, they look OP. I'm not even messing around. So let's jump over and have a look at all the champions. So first I'm going to show you the screenshots right here. So this is Eternal Guard. So he's a minion. One of the bosses has 2 minions, right? So we have Eternal Guard, then we have Eternal Priest. One of the other bosses has no minions at all. So these 2 minions, they're going to be tied specifically to one boss. This is the Griffian. Super powerful boss, guys. This is gonna be hardcore for everybody, I'm telling you. If you thought that the Scrap King is hard, wait till we find this boss right here. Then we have Aragot. This boss right here is with the minions, right? So he's pretty strong as well, but I find it like it's a bit easier to beat this guy rather than the other one. So that being said, let's check out their skills, guys. So we're gonna start with the minions first. Let me just put the text in the right size here so you guys can see it easier on the screen as well. We have Eternal Guard Minion. Attacks all enemies, places a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns, also places a provoke debuff for 1 turn on enemies under block cooldown skills debuff. We have the A2, Eternal Protection, decreases the damage taken by allies from AoE attacks by 75%. That is huge damage reduction on the boss. On the other minions, going in with AoE attacks is going to be a pain in the ass to deal with this team, so you definitely want to avoid AoE attacks as much as possible, at least on the damage dealer. Then, moving over to Eternal Priest minion skills. We have the A1, Bolt Strike, attacks 1 enemy, places a block cooldown skills debuff for 2 turns. A2 resets the cooldown of all enemy skills when this champion is killed by an enemy. So that's the passive. So whenever we're gonna kill this champion, the skills of all our team, they're gonna get decreased, right? So that's a good thing. We gotta kill this guy many times. The only thing is that if they're gonna have thick HP like the same ones they have in the spider, huge HP, is gonna be so hard to actually fight on this boss. It's gonna be a very long time to kill the boss. So that's gonna be a problem. That's what I see so far. Now, moving over to the boss that has the minions, that's Aragot. So these are his skills right here. He has a wall of text, same like with the other one, so it's gonna take a while to read through this. And let me just adjust a bit the size better so you guys can see it more clear on the screen. We have his A1, Spike Storm, attacks all enemies, places a block cooldown skills debuff for 1 turn. So resistance. A2, Spirit Rush, attacks all enemies, inflicts bonus damage for every turn remaining on all enemy skills cooldowns, plus 20% damage for each turn of cooldown. Places a fear debuff on enemies with no skills on cooldown. Again, you wanna have resistance. if you don't have resistance and he's gonna land all these debuffs on you, it's game over for your team. So I actually like it that they started shifting more towards resistance, at least with another boss. Then we have the A3 Soul Burst, attacks all enemies, puts all enemy skills on cooldown, fills Aragot's turn meter by 5% for every turn remaining on all enemies' skills cooldowns. So again, resistance. It's gonna put all the skills on cooldown. This is kind of working the same way it works with Warlord, Basher, Elegias. So it's not a block cooldown skills debuff from what I've seen here, unless they misworded that. So you gotta have resistance, if not, again, you're getting clapped. So resistance is the weapon against this boss so far. But we're gonna talk over about champions that are great for it. Champions that they're gonna skyrocket in power because of these new bosses. So moving over to the A4, the first passive. Conjure Souls, summons 3 minions at the start of the turn, 1 Eternal Priest, then 2 Eternal Guards. Aragot can have a maximum of 3 minions in battle at any time. So he's gonna summon the minions, then places an Eternal Rage buff on Aragot for 2 turns if only 1 minion is summoned or no minions are summoned by this skill. This buff cannot be removed or blocked. So what it says right here, guys, if you're blocking revive on them, because hey, that's what we're all thinking, right? We gotta block revive, we don't wanna have them revived. But then this boss is gonna start buffing as long as he doesn't revive all 3 of them. So if he's not putting all 3 of them, he's gonna get a buff. Now, the Eternal Rage buff increases Aragot's speed and causes Aragot to ignore unkillable, block damage, shield buffs, and ignores 50% of the target's defense when attacking. So you gotta stack a lot of HP on your champions, but mainly you do not wanna block revive. So I repeat, it puts that buff for 2 turns only if 1 minion is summoned or no minions are summoned. So if he summons 2 minions or summons 3 minions, okay, that means that he's not gonna buff. At least from the wording that I see right here. So no block revive on this champion. Then we have the A5. Consume Soul. At the start of the turn, sacrifices an Eternal Priest, resets the cooldown of Aragot's skills, and grants an extra turn. So at every start of the turn he gets, not round, turn, so whenever he gets a turn, he sacrifices an Eternal Priest. Then, if there are no Eternal Priests on the team, sacrifices an Eternal Guard and heals Aragot by 15% of the Aragot's max HP. So you do not want to block revive by any means on the other champion, on the Eternal Priest, on the minion. Definitely not. Now, this skill will be on a 4-turn cooldown at the start of the battle and will activate and go on cooldown every 5 turns, even if there are no Eternal Priests or Eternal Guards on the team. So he's gonna activate that. Whatever that means, he's gonna still get an extra turn even if he cannot sacrifice anybody, right? Then we have the other passive A6, immune to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, block cooldown skills, fear, true fear, decrease speed, poison, heal reduction, immune to HP exchange effects, HP balancing effects, and turn meter reduction effects. Not immune to cooldown increase effects. So some champions will be skyrocketing in this boss, guys, but no turn meter reduction. You cannot manipulate the turn meter at all. So that means 0 turn meter manipulation, guys. Forget about Cold Hearts, forget about Lissandras, forget about Armigers or champions like that. Then Almighty Strength passive. It tells us we cannot use enemy max HP hitters to one-shot the boss. It's just a 10% cap on the damage. So no turn meter control, no enemy max HP hitters, but we can increase the cooldown of his skills. Warlord, Basher, Elegias will be skyrocketing on this boss, guys, because they can increase the cooldowns with their skills. So they're gonna become super powerful against this champion right here. Elegias very powerful. Warlord even more powerful because, how we said, we gotta run a resistance on the team. He has an amazing resistance aura. So Warlord is gonna be the #1 enemy for this boss right here. So talking a bit more about his skills, like we have this right here. This is a passive, right? So we cannot increase the duration of passives with no champion in the game. So Warlord, Basher, and all the rest will make no effect on their passive. But we can, the reason I don't think a block revive champion is going to be good, we should only block the revive on one Eternal Guard, no more than that. And if we're not able to maintain that, to control the block revives, that means we're gonna have to manual in order to do so, and it's gonna be pretty hard not to block revive on a different one. But then at the same time, we do need to kill one of the Eternal Guard every single turn before the boss actually gets to move, because if no, he's still gonna buff. So it's gonna be hard to control the amount of buffs he gets. The more he stacks on buffs, we're gonna be screwed. So it's honestly pretty hard to control it. I think it's gonna be a pretty challenging. Do let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about this boss, what sort of champions you would use against him and things like that. But I think resistance and increased cooldown skills is gonna be honestly the best way to counter this boss. Thick HP on your champion so that ignore defense doesn't hurt as much. But let's move over and talk about the next boss, guys. So the next boss is Grition. Let's have a quick look at the skills. A1 Shockwave attacks one enemy, has a 100% chance of placing a fear debuff for one turn. That can be resisted. Then we have the A2 Rock Smash, transfer all debuffs from Grition to another enemy, to each enemy, sorry, then attacks all enemies. Fills Griffian's turn meter by 5% for each debuff transferred. Now, we should be able to block this with resistance, or we cannot use any champions that debuff him, which without defense down is going to be probably a long time to take him down. Then the A3 Death Gust removes all buffs from all enemies, then attacks all enemies. The buff removal cannot be resisted. Damage increases by 10% for each buff removed. So resistance is not going to help us here, guys. I kind of feel like I don't really want to have a lot of buffs, right? Because the damage increases by 10% for each buff removed. If we're talking about each buff removed from every single champion, let's just say he removes 3 buffs per champion, 3 multiply with 5, 15, damage increases by 150%. He's gonna wreck my whole team. So no, we gotta be careful not to use a lot of buffs, because we cannot resist that, right? So even high resistance is not gonna counter that. Then the first passive A4 Divine Strike attacks an enemy whenever their HP drops below 50%. This attack places a 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns. Now again here, we do want to run some resistance because we do not want to have that heal reduction on our champion when his HP drops below 50, because that can create a big problem. The second passive, Celestial Bond, adds 1 Skybond buff to Grition at the start of each turn. Also adds 1 Skybond buff to Grition whenever an enemy's HP drops below 50. Each Skybond buff increases Grition's attack by 5, crit rate by 3%, crit damage by 5%, speed by 2.5, will ignore shield, block damage and unkillable buff when Grition has 10 or more Skybond buffs. Can stack up to 20 Skybond buffs. Skybond buffs cannot be blocked or removed. Sweet Jesus. We're gonna be in for a nasty boss here. Like, ignoring everything, boosting his damage so much, stacking up to 20 of them at the start of every turn. We cannot block it, we cannot remove it. That's gonna be so hardcore to fight, guys. Honestly, it's so hard. I'm not even sure how we're gonna be able to counter all this. Again, we'll probably have to run some high HP champions, high defense as well, because he's not ignoring defense, but he has tons of damage, ignoring unkillable, block damage and shield. So none of those things, they're actually gonna help on this boss, right? Then we have the next passive. Again, no turn meter control. Doing that is gonna be a problem. Whenever Grition's turn meter is decreased, the turn meter of all enemies will be decreased by the same amount. Imagine depleting the turn meter with a cold heart, you're gonna deplete the turn meter of all your team. So if you do decrease the turn meter, expect to screw your team, because you're gonna decrease the turn meter of all your team, not only the enemy. Then places a stun debuff for 1 turn on enemies with fully depleted turn meters. Again, you wanna avoid that. Then whenever an enemy's turn meter is filled, Grition's turn meter will be filled by the same amount. Turn meter increases are tracked and counted individually for each enemy. Sweet Jesus macaroni, holy moly. This boss is OP. The Scarab King is a walk in the park comparing it with this boss, guys. no Termiter control, placing stun, decreasing the Termiter of all your team. My god, it's gonna be so hardcore. Then we have the passives right here. Almighty Immunity, immune to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, block cooldown skills, fear, true fear, debuffs, immune to HP exchange effects, HP balancing effects, and cooldown increasing effects. Then the next passive decreases the damage taken from poisons debuffs by 90%. Almighty Strength, damage from skills that scales based on enemy max HP cannot exceed 10% of the boss's max HP when attacking the boss. Almighty Persistence, all Termiter reduction effects are decreased by 50% when used against the boss. Now this passive is kind of stupid, considering that he has a different passive countering the Termiter. By doing so, he's actually not going to be able to fully deplete the Termiter of the enemy, so he cannot fully deplete the Termiter of our champion. So I think these kind of two passives, they kind of knocking each other in the head. But seeing that, Almighty Tolerance is not added to the other boss, right? I haven't seen this here, so I'm pretty sure they stopped it. We're not going to be able to run Poison Detonation on that either. I think either it's missing, either they kind of forgot to put it. Honestly, I thought that is all together with this. They were together by now. I haven't checked them in a long time, but not buffing on this team, honestly, against this boss, sorry. So we gotta avoid buffs on our champions. Man, honestly, I'm not even sure what I'm gonna use to counter this boss at the moment. I really gotta stay and think it a lot before I decide what I'm gonna use against this boss. It's gonna be pretty rough. We do gotta heal. We wanna have some healers that don't buff. Reduce the amount of buffs we're gonna get, because of course we're not gonna be able to run 0 buffs, so it's gonna be pretty hard, honestly. So we gotta be careful. Do let me know in the comments down below, guys, which one of these bosses seem more OP to you, this one or the previous one with the minions. I do think this one is gonna be harder than the Scarab King just by looking at it. I might be a bit wrong here, I'm not 100% sure. It's gonna be left to come in game, play them, try them around with teams and see where we're getting, but so far I do think he's a pretty powerful boss. Let me know in the comments down below your opinions, guys. Appreciate you guys watching. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to thumbs up, subscribe for more content, turn on notifications to see when we upload next, and I'll see you all soon on another video. Till then, peace out.